All right. I want to say peace to everyone who's tuned in. Welcome to my channel. This is your brother Wujau. And today I want to keep this video as compact as I can, but at the same time, I do want to continue the conversation about ADOS, the educational and political advocacy movement, and specifically dealing with HR 40 again. If you notice that this is entitled what is HR 40 part 2, regarding Jason Black's commentary. And for those who are not familiar with Jason Black, on YouTube he's known as the Black Authority, and he has a pretty popular platform with a lot of subscribers and viewers. So I don't know too many people who haven't heard about the Black Authority. So again, I want to do my best, I guess, to keep this video as compact as I can. The longer the videos, the less likely people are gonna sit through and watch the entire video in the archives. I definitely understand that. And so I'll do my best to keep it as short as possible. But at the same time, I am going to give the link for anyone who's in the chat now. If you want to participate in this conversation with me, so I won't be the only one speaking, I'm going to give the link. And by all means, you can join in on the panel, as far as a panel. So I'm, definitely encourage a panel discussion. So I am going to post a link right now for those of you who are watching right now. So, and when you do come in, please be mindful and mute your mic when you come in. And then, we just keep some decorum, typical conversation decorum going with respect to not cutting each other off, etc. All right. So just kind of stalling, giving people the chance to tune in from receiving notification. This is not, I didn't plan this ahead of time as far as advertising this discussion. I rarely do, and maybe I will start to do that. But again, I appreciate anybody who's tuned in now and watching. All right, and hopefully you benefit from the videos that I've been doing one way or the other. All right, my one of the things I like to always emphasize is for people to actually read, do your due diligence, study, and hold back on your opinions until you do that. That's one of the big mistakes that I see made quite often, is that people, because social media is very, very accessible. We have cell phones, we have Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube at our fingertips, literally. And so when we have an opinion about something, we kind of hastily share it without, slowing it down and taking time to really look into things. And some people have very influential opinions, and some people follow the opinions of others. And so we just have to be mindful and be careful of that. So my thing is to always promote study, and I see I do have someone who chimed in. So if you give me a moment, I'm just trying to set up the conversation. Appreciate you tuning in. And if you keep your mic muted, and hopefully you can hear me. If you keep your mic muted, just give me bear with me for a while. I'm just trying to set up the conversation, and then I'll open the floor up. All right. So hopefully you can hear me, and maybe you could type. Give me a moment. Just trying to set up the. Oh, and by the way, if you do come in to the panel, you can mute your YouTube video that you're watching this on now. If you come into the panel, mute that, and then you'll be able to hear in real time from the audio on the panel. All right. So now we got all the technical things out the way. I'm gonna keep posting the link from time to time in the chat. Post it one more time. All right, and also, don't be afraid to join the panel. You know, that's I like panel discussions. I also do presentations, presenting information, but I definitely like panel discussions. All right, I like feedback. I like to volley off of other people's ideas and commentary as well. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump into this topic. What is HR 40? And this is part 2. And actually, let me turn off that music. All right, now the reason why I named this part 2 is because if you look on my channel, you'll see the previous video to this one. You'll see what is HR 40. And now I did that video, and the reason why I did that video was to, one, answer the question of what is HR 40, of course, but I also wanted to highlight in answering what is HR 40, what I wanted to point out was the back and forth bickering that we see on social media when it comes to the conversation of divisiveness of ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery, the acronym, what it is actually defined as, and so on. People have accused it of being divisive. Okay. And what I found strange was that people that accuse it of being divisive will also be the same people who are in support of HR 40. So we have people that are saying support HR 40, support HR 40. I support HR 40, but at the same time will accuse ADOS as a movement to be divisive, and they would cite as one of the elements of being divisive as the identity piece. Identifying as separating the blackness, the flat black. Demarcating or set up a boundary. People had an issue with that. So in answering what is HR 40 in the last video, what I also pointed out, highlighted, is the fact that shows that people who have both of those opinions, that they're contradictory opinions. And it shows that people are not really paying attention, or they're not reading what HR 40 is, but yet they support it. So, because the reason why I say that in a nutshell is HR 40 is very specific. HR 40 does not speak to Africans of the diaspora or Africans on the continent in general. There's no global sense within HR 40. HR 40 is very specific to a place, and that place being the United States of America. HR 40 is very specific to a people. And in the language of HR 40, it refers to those people as African Americans, descendants of enslaved Africans, people who were transported over here and enslaved. All right. So there's no mention of our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean nations. There's no mention of our brothers and sisters in European nations. There's no mention of our brothers and sisters on the continent. All right. So HR 40 in and of itself is very, very specific. And ADOS advocates and stands on this specificity. It's very, very specific. The American descendants of slavery. So that's what I pointed out in the last video, and I hoped I got that point across, because making that point, it will cause people to slow things down and realize that, wait a minute, hey, I'm not making sense. I'm supportive of HR 40, but yet, I'm accusing this of being divisive. But wait a minute, HR 40 is not a global piece of legislation for a global case. So what am I saying here? So hopefully it will cause people to realize that. All right. So now since I did that video, Jason Black, who's also known as the Black Authority, I believe he's known as Black Authority on Twitter and on YouTube. Okay. Now he has a much more listen, I just started my channel. I've been on YouTube for a while, but I just started using this channel, so I don't have many subscribers or viewers, when I'm live or even in the archive. So, I definitely cannot hold a flame next to these larger platforms. All right. But I did the video, what is HR 40? And then I think the next day or 2 days after I did that video, the Black Authority, or Jason Black, he did a video about HR 40. All right. And hopefully you all have seen it. Now, I would encourage everyone to watch it, Go ahead and watch it. I think it is about an hour and a half long or 2 hours long. So you got to have some stamina to watch it, of course, but go ahead and watch it if you haven't already. And so he walks through HR 40. He reads it line by line and goes over it with people. And I checked out the video and I watched the comments in the chat of the video. And so I'm doing this particular video, what is HR 40 part 2, in lieu of his video. Okay, so I want to kind of give some commentary about his video, and make some additional points that I did not make in my first video. All right, so that's what this video is about. All right, so I said all of that as a huge intro to the topic of discussion today. All right, and again, so feel free. I'm gonna post the link again. Feel free to join the panel with me. Don't be afraid. I don't bite. So feel free to come into the channel. The only thing I ask is, the normal communication etiquette of not cutting each other off, and to be respectful. All right, even in disagreements. All right, so let us continue. So I do have someone who's joined in with me, and I will pass the mic to you, brother, in a minute. Let me just get some of these points out, and then we can just open it up. All right, so now, like I said, his video is 2 hours long or so. And so, of course, I'm not going to play his video, and I would encourage you to watch it yourself. But now, this is the critique that I have for his video. All right. What you can take away from watching his entire video is something that we suspected right from the start. And that is, when people heard HR 40 for the first time, and they heard, they bore witness to the discussions around it, a lot of people assumed HR 40 was reparations itself. In other words, people assumed HR 40 was a piece of legislation that would approve of reparations itself, as if HR 40 was the check. In other words, in people's minds, people assume that if HR 40 is passed, then a check will be cut. That was the general assumption that a lot of people had, and some still have. All right. Now, this was known a long time ago. This was known, weeks ago. I would say a month or so ago. And me personally, this is the reason why when I first started talking about this, which was maybe February, sometime in February, because what I did personally, I didn't share any of my opinions. I was completely silent on this entire topic of reparations, ADOS, and the whole nine. While I was silent, I did my due diligence, like I encourage everybody to do. Before you open your mouth, you gotta, put some substance in your mind. So I reviewed a whole lot of things. I read HR 40. Matter of fact, I read all of HR 40s, all of the submissions over the years. Remember, it was first submitted in 1989, and it wasn't even called HR 40. It was called HR 3745, and I'm going to show that in a second. I read them all from 1989 up to the most recent one, and I made note of the changes in the language, how it was reworded a little bit through those submissions. I did that. I also watched hours upon hours upon hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of Antonio Moore's as well as Yvette Carnell's videos going all the way back to 2016. Okay. Once I got all of that under my belt and I saw what they were saying, I saw the data that they were showing and the points that was made and the information that supports the points, et cetera, et cetera. That's when I started to develop an opinion and started to share it. All right. So this is what I encourage everyone to do. Now, so when I started speaking about it, I noticed that everybody assumed HR 40 was a check. And I know that because I read HR 40. I knew what it was for what it was. And so anyway, back to Jason's Black video. Jason's Black's video shows and proves that point. Because in his video, he emphasizes throughout the entire video, he emphasizes the fact that it's not an approval of a check and that it is only a study. If you go and watch his video, he's emphasizing point after point after point throughout the entire video that HR 40 is just a study. It's just a study. It's just a study. Because of that emphasis, it shows that this was the assumption. But if you do your due diligence, you would have known that already. Everyone would know that HR 40 is a study. It always has been, and it's no secret. It's there in plain language that it is a study, and I'm going to show it in a second. So my critique of that is because that was the assumption, that was used to play on the ignorance of people, or I should say, play on the ignorance people had of HR 40. So what ended up happening is people walked away from watching his video with saying, "Kill the bill. The bill is trash. Kill it. Kill it in the crib." You know, these are the things that a lot of people in the chat were saying, and even after the video on Twitter and Facebook, people are saying, "Kill the bill. Kill the bill. It's trash. It's garbage. It was written to fail." You know, everybody just basically toss it, and cut the check. That's what people are walking away with. That they're saying, "Kill the bill, cut the check. Kill the bill, cut the check. The bill is trash. Cut the check. You know, it's a setup. Cut the check. Cut the check. Cut the check." And to me, that is my one big critique of Jason's Black's video, the way he handled it and did that for people to walk away from that video saying that. I have a critique about that. I have a problem with that. The second problem I have is the overemphasis of dramatizing the reading of HR 40. If you go listen to his video, he's very, very dramatic in reading it. And that plays on people's emotions. And what it does, it invites that emotional environment in the discussion where people will say, "Kill the bill. I knew it. I knew it was a setup. Kill the bill. You know, cut the check. Cut the check. You know, it don't need to be a study. You don't have to study anything. Just cut the check. Cut the check." You know, and that doesn't help us out. So, but outside of that, you know, like I said, people enjoy his videos, his opinions and everything like that. And like I said, I'm not criticizing the brother personally or anything, but my critique, those are my two critiques. And I feel that it's detrimental to our progress in the bigger picture of things. All right. So now what I would like to do is to take out all the drama, take out all the emotion, and just share a couple of things. So I'm going to share my screen. Give me 1 second here. And brother Unbiased Sports, I appreciate you being patient. So just bear with me for a minute. I'm definitely going to pass you the mic and see what you have to say. And again, anybody feel up to joining the discussion, feel free. Okay, so right now I'm sharing my screen, and hopefully you all can see that. And let's see here real quick. Okay, I believe you all can see it big enough. Just want to verify that. I don't want to keep on talking and you all can't see it. All right, so yeah, you all should be able to see it clear enough. All right, so now this is the current form of HR 40, and it is entitled Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African Americans Act. All right. Now, what is overly emphasized is this word study. A commission to study, a commission to study. And so part of my critique of what Jason did and others, a few others have done or still doing, is that they're mischaracterizing the study. See, the way that it's being characterized and pushed, through an emotional lens, is as if this is asking somebody to study to convince that either slavery took place or that ADOS people deserve reparations. And that's not what the study is about. The study is not a convincing endeavor. It's not something to study in order to convince people that we are due reparations or that slavery caused damage. It's not that type of study. And this is why the second part is important. It says develop reparations proposals. And the reason why that's important, and the reason why a study is important, and this is why people are saying toss it in the trash because of the study, it's the opposite. A study must take place, because this is the thing. When somebody says, kill the bill, cut the check, the bill is trash, cut the check, it's a setup, cut the check. The moment you ask them, how much should the check be? The moment you put that out there, you're going to get a whole bunch of different answers. People are saying 1 trillion, 2 trillion, 14 trillion, 6 trillion, 100 trillion, 900 trillion. Some people are saying you can't even put a price tag on what slavery did. So you get all these different random opinions and things from the same people who are saying cut the check. So a study is needed, and if it pleases people better, change the word study to the word examination, analyze, analysis, review, or whatever word that will float your boat. Change it, because the purpose of studying it is to develop. See, it says, and you have to study the impact in full, a very comprehensive analysis of the impact of chattel slavery, black codes, Jim Crow, dot, all of the vestiges and everything leading up to present day, and then develop. See, you use this data to develop a reparations program. This is how you know and you can justify cutting of a check and how much it would be, whatever set-asides, whatever policies, whatever legislative policies are written as a result of this, whatever programs are enacted and created because of this, et cetera, et cetera. That's why a study is needed. All right. And see, this is what people should be emphasizing, not the emotional, why they got to study. See, that's the wrong lens to see this through. All right. So I just want to make those things very, very, very clear. And that's the difference with what I would have liked Jason Black to emphasize instead of the route that he went. All right. I feel, again, that's my critique, that I feel that that's very detrimental in the way that he handled the reading of that. All right. So what I'm sharing on the screen is the most current. This is the 116th Congress. And I shared this before in the last video. But I'm just emphasizing that that's what it is here. Now, what I want to show you all is this one. Okay. If you haven't noticed, I switched my screen, and what I'm showing is HR 3745. This one is the very, very first introduction to this HR 40, what became HR 40 later. All right. This was introduced by Representative John Conyers in 1989. Okay. Same title. Well, no, actually, it's worded slightly different, but it still says study. So the point here is that it was always a study, a commission to study reparation proposals for African Americans Act. Here you see proposals. Okay, that's how it was first introduced, 1989. All right, and what I want you all to see is, let me go back to this here. Okay, so what I'm showing you all is every single submission from its start, which is down here. We're starting in 1989. It was called HR 3745. The next time it was submitted in the 102nd Congress, it was called HR 1684. Okay. In the 103rd Congress, it was called HR 40. In the 104th Congress, it was called HR 891. Okay, so these numbers, HR, as I said in the first video, HR stands for House of Representatives, and this number is assigned by the clerk. It's a number that's assigned to the bills in some procedure that the clerk has, whether it's chronological order or what have you. All right, but I'm showing this because this is what everyone should look into. Read all of them. The first one is only 16. Okay, the first one, the second one, that's the third one, fourth one, fifth one is called HR 40. Sixth one's HR 40. So it's called HR 40 ever since 1997. It retained that title, HR 40. Okay, ever since then. But if you read them, you'll find that that most of them are the exact same thing, like it's a resubmission, but then you see the language change. And so I'm just showing you all that to let you all know that it was always a study. So people being surprised that it's a study now, it's really unfounded. And I think that should have been handled much more delicately than how it's being handled. All right. Now, if you notice, here's where the title changes. So from 2015 in the 114th Congress, it still says Commission to Study Reparation Proposals for African Americans Act. It's not until 2017 that we changed. You see a change in the title slightly, where it says Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African Americans Act. This "and" here was seen as significant enough to add it to the title. All right. And then we add the current one. So the previous one and the current one are the only ones that have this and develop reparation proposal. And you're going to notice something as well between the two. So let me go to the 114th Congress and show you one of the differences. And this is how, this is one of the benefits of making sure you study all of them. Okay, this is from the 114th Congress, before the "and" was added there. All right. One of the differences here, if you go to the text, one of the differences here is if you scroll down, you're going to come to section 4, where it says membership. Okay. Under membership, it tells you the number of members and how they're appointed. That's what it means by number and appointment. And so notice that it says the commission shall be composed of 7 members. So remember that it's only 7 members, and then it gives an A, B, and C. There's no D here, only A, B, and C. 7 members, and 3 of those appointed by the president, 3 others appointed by the Speaker of the House, and then 1 other appointed by the president pro tempore of the Senate. Okay, only 7 members. So this was in 2015. So now let's go back. I'm going to go back to the list, and I want to go to the next submission. So that was the 114th congressional session of 2015. Now we're going to go to the 115th Congress. Okay, the next time it was submitted, and we're going to look at that. And this is where in the title, this is where "and" was added there. There's an emphasis on both of these, a study and the development of proposals. Okay, so we're gonna go down to the text, and we're gonna see that going down to section 4, membership. Now notice here it says the commission shall be composed of 13 members. So an additional 6 members was added within this piece of legislation or this bill. All right. And then you see a D added here. So those 6 members that was added, because these A, B, and C are exactly the same as it's been, D was added. D is added to allow 6 members to be of major civil society, of reparations organizations who have historically championed the cause of reparatory justice. Okay, so what people were complaining about, because one of the things that was complained is the colorism aspect. When you watch Jason Black's video, he's emphasizing white president, white people pointing this and white this and white that and everything, to put the finger on the emotional aspect of things, which again, as I'm saying, that's my critique. I don't think that these matters should be discussed in those, within that kind of context. But anyway, so D was added. 6 members shall be selected from reparation organizations, et cetera, which allow people on the panel. Now, in addition to this, the entire process of how this bill, or how bills in general are handled when they're in committee and people speak to them and everything. You also have hearings. You also have expert witness testimony. You have public hearings and so on and so forth. People are called in, etc. And that's not discussed. On all these other videos, people are not discussing the entire process of how all this stuff transpires. All right. So anyway, I'm just adding those things in and wanted to share that with you all about HR 40. Now, the question is, is HR 40 acceptable the way it is written? And let me go back to the latest one, which is identical to this one, by the way. So the question is HR 40, can HR 40 improve? Can HR 40 be improved? And the answer is definitely yes. HR 40 can use amendments for sure, or be rewritten, or we can just say amended. All right, because what is in here, it's not really doesn't have to be tossed in the trash altogether. As people are implying. The reason why people are saying toss it in the trash is because they're just now discovering that it's a study, and then they're mischaracterizing what kind of study it is, as if we need to study, as if slavery happened, or if African Americans are due reparations. No, it's not that kind of study. This is not that type of study. So I want to make sure we understand that, and that's very clear. But the question is, can it be amended and can it be improved? And the answer is yes. And this is what ADOS advocacy, this is what Antonio Moore and Yvette Carnell have said all along. Although it's being supported, and this is something that we should support, along with that support, it was always said that HR 40 should be amended. It should be improved. Its wording, things need to be added into it, etc. And the fact that it is amendable. You can amend the bill. Okay? So all is not lost. You know, and this is what I'm saying that because people are saying, toss it, kill the bill in the crib before it goes anywhere. We should never support it and all this and that. See, and that's just not the way to handle things. All right. So I just wanted to kind of cover that and lay that out there for everybody who's listening. And as a part to my discussion on HR 40. So if you watch the first video, I basically covered a lot of it. The points, you know, the point I was making as far as the scope of what this bill is about and who it was about, the fact that it's not talking about a global case of reparations for you know, black people all over the globe, all over the world. It's not dealing with that. All right. So, okay, with all of that said, you know, Brother Unbiased Sports been patient. So, you know, if you have any commentary or comments about anything that I brought up, you know, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yes, sir. You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yep.
All right. Let me. I got a quick question for you first. Are you a vegetarian? Like, do you eat meat?
I'm a vegetarian.
Yeah, I thought that. That's why I even thought to ask you that.
Oh, what made you ask or point that out?
Bruh, I don't know. I just at the split second, I just said, let me ask my brother. I don't know. I guess it's the way you look. You know, you kind of look like one. I am one too. That's why I was asking.
Okay, so so vegetarians have a look. Okay.
Bruh, listen.
All right.
You know how weed smokers could tell a weed smoker and a wino could tell a wino.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Well, I guess we can tell other vegetarians somehow.
Yeah, I'm vegetarian. I was a vegan for a brief stint, but then, you know, I really but on that issue, I don't really deal with those titles because you know, it gets funny. But yeah,
hey, bro, I get what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Like I'm a vegetarian, but I might do, you know what I mean? I might do what I want because I'm not religious. So like nothing, like no religious ideology make me want to be a vegetarian. It's just a personal choice. That means if I want to come off it, and I'll come off it. You know, and when I say come off it, I mean I might relapse in some fish, something like that.
Okay, yeah.
I get what you're saying. Like I'm not religious. I gotta remind people like when they see me eating fish, I'm like, nah. I'm not religious. I can do it. This is a personal choice. I can do what I want.
Right, that's what I'm saying. As far as that, it's about eating clean, eating giving the body what it needs. And so these titles, vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, because me, I've over the years, like depending on what amount of years you go back, and me personally, I've jumped from vegetarian to pescatarian, like
right.
you know, back and forth. But yeah, so yeah. So what, do you have anything?
Of course. I got, you know what I mean? I always catch you sometimes late, but you dig. This is a good time for me, and sometimes the morning. So if you come on afternoon, I'm never gonna catch you. But
Okay.
so I want to say this. I just want to add on to the Jason Black thing. He's called TVA, the Black Authority. He's with a trilateral of. He's in a trilateral with Tariq Nasheed and Professor Truth. So it's all three of them that's pretty much on one accord. So I just want to point that out. And as far as your channel, I believe it will grow as long as you stay consistent. Because I believe you're as intelligent as anybody else that's out there. As a matter of fact, I think you're even more well-rounded. And what makes you stand out more than anybody else is that you actually have a lane, and your lane is the meta-netter. You feel me? So like, and that's something that's not being taught like that out there. But as far as the movement, the 80 West movement, a lot of immigrants, in my opinion, have a problem with it because the world see black people as this low down shame, you know, through social media, World Star, whatever else. They see us like that. And they see themselves as hard-working immigrants who came here, pulled at their bootstraps, and they worked very hard. So to see us get a leverage or a boost like that, I think they see that as unfair. So I think that's where most of the pushback is coming from, because they see us as a lazy people and they work hard to get theirs. And now we'll be getting something to boost us up above them. And now they got to look up to us. So that's how I kind of view the pushback. But I'm ADOS, by the way, and I don't have a problem with immigrants because I'm self-employed, and 100% of my clients are all immigrants. Like, I don't have one American, supporting me at all. So they are immigrants. So I can't be, anti-immigrant. I'll be unemployed or broke. Now, ADOS does not cause division. The immigrants have, as you know, and most of us know or experience, the immigrants kind of divided from us ever since we decided to do something for ourselves or claim something for ourselves. The immigrants decided to cause a division, draw a line, or divide themselves amongst us. Now, what ADOS has done, it has unified for the first time, maybe in history, Black Americans, Black-born Americans, or descendants of slaves, slavery. It has unified us. Now we could actually unify under one banner, and that's ADOS.
Now, this is the thing that you would get pushback for that last statement. There, people will say, well, didn't the identification using African American already achieve that? And
no, we were never unified. We never felt like we were one person with each other. So although we all, so you might miss what I said. We all self-identify as that, but we didn't feel like we had each other backs. The ADOS movement, for the first time, I see that Black Americans feel like we are responsible for each other for the first time. Like, you having some type of like a love type of relationship with us for the first time. All of us that claim this ADOS thing. I have not seen any arguments amongst us, any division at all, any scuffling. We've been on one accord, basically. And that's what I was getting at with that.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you loud and clear. I'm just saying that's been what I've witnessed, the pushback to saying it. Because I agree with you 100%. And to add to that, the thing that makes it unifying is that ADOS, that one more time, I did it in the other videos, but let me clarify again. The ADOS is an acronym. It stands for, okay, one second. I think my screen went blank for a second. What just happened here? What just happened? All right, there we go. We're back in business. So ADOS is an acronym. Now, it serves two purposes. It has two functions. It works in two ways. It is a acronym for a people, and then it's an acronym for a movement. Okay, and so what people should practice doing is, when you refer to an ADOS person, just put ADOS. When you refer to the movement, I'm gonna mute your mic for a second because I'm hearing some background noise a little bit. Yeah, when you want to refer to the movement, then use the hashtag. All right, that's just just some how you can make the distinction there a little bit as a suggestion. All right, and I'm not sure why is this going black on me here. Hopefully everybody can still see us on Facebook. On YouTube. So anyway, so ADOS. Okay, so the A stands for American. D is for descendants, and O is for of, and S is for slavery. Now, there's people who will mistakenly say American descendants of slaves, and then that becomes a talking point, and people are fussing and arguing about that. People saying, no, it shouldn't be slaves. It should be enslaved or enslaved Africans, and so we get that sidebar discussions that takes us off of the real issues. And we really, really, really have to do better with that. We got it. We can't allow ourselves to get distracted. So ADOS is the acronym. It's a very, very brief and concise way to describe who? The claim holders. Because this movement is a justice claim. It is regarding a justice claim, a restorative justice claim, a reparative justice claim. So you have to identify the claim holders. And so ADOS does just that. It is a concise way of identifying claim holders. All right. Now, African American is a synonym in the regular, conversations that we have. But when you want to identify claim holders more specifically and to identify it with the damage, which is the institution of slavery, then ADOS is very, very sufficient for that. Nobody should have a problem with that. ADOS also is further defined as the A, meaning American. It's not talking about the Americas, talking about Canada, Mexico, Central America, South America, etc., as people try to be distracted about. No, it is specifically talking about a citizen of the United States of America. That's it. When it says American, it's talking about a citizen of the United States of America. Now, the D is really talking about a lineal descendant, because ADOS is all about lineage. So D is really lineal descent, not a collateral descendant, a lineal descendant. And there's a difference between the two. So I suggest you all look it up. A lineal descendant. Then the O is self-explanatory of, and then like I said, S is for slavery, but that slavery is defined as the institution of slavery and all of its vestiges up to the present. Okay? So that everyone should have an understanding of what that stands for. Nobody should be arguing about the acronym anymore. Nobody should say, well, it should be DOS or DEUSA or ABCDEFGHIJKLMNOP. I mean, that's very, very distractive. That's very, very irrelevant. Okay, we need to stay on code, stay on the issues. All right, educate ourselves on the issues and start to advocate once you're educated. All right, so I just wanted to kind of reiterate that, so people, and I'm going to keep on doing that, because as I keep seeing that that these things keep coming up. All right, but yeah, so I was saying that because I agree with you in terms of how that goes, and that's the pushback. Like, well, wasn't African American enough, and so on and so forth. And if people notice that HR 40, when I shared it, HR 40 clearly said the African Americans Act. So if ADOS as a movement is advocating support for HR 40, then obviously ADOS as a movement doesn't have a problem with the term African American. So it's, so we kind of make a big deal out of things that we shouldn't. So I see we have I Am Sosa on. So I Am Sosa, you have any comments about anything? I don't know how far you've been tuned in or whatnot, but if you have any comments, open the floor up.
Yeah, I've been paying attention. My thing is this, and I think it's something too. You should probably get into, like, maybe the next show is like, maybe we take out a couple of the point out a few of the graphs they're showing, and it's just the statistics, and and explain to the people how it affects ADOS people. Because a lot of videos I see, nobody ever talk about the stats.
Right.
They just want to argue about should the A be for African, should the S be for enslaved. We were never slaves, and it's all these bickering about that really don't have nothing to do with the meat of the subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree.
And then when somebody says something, they say, well, there's only 5 million immigrants. How's that affecting you? But that never gets into a conversation to explain how it, how it actually affects you, right, and how it affects ADOS people. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then they just walk away from the whole video or whatever, not any wiser than it was before they came in. So that's kind of my gripe.
Yeah, and to that, I think that immigrants, I think from the start, I think black immigrants took offense to something that they shouldn't have, and I think it spiraled out of control on both sides. And by that I mean, if you go back and read, like let's do this. Let me pull it up actually, so I can show it at the same time as I'm saying it. Let's see, pull it up to. Give me a second here. If you go to ADOS101.com website, and I encourage everyone to do that. If you haven't done that already, then shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. But if you go to ADOS.com, ADOS101.com website, go to the Black Agenda. All right. And I've done this before on another platform, but I'm going to share it here, and I want to read the first bullet. So let me get this on the screen here. So this is the first bullet under the Black Agenda. Okay. So you go to the website, you go to the homepage, click on the Black Agenda, and it'll bring you to where I'm at right now. All right. And this is the very first bullet. And y'all scroll down so you can see what it looks like. So this is the Black Agenda. And because it's the first bullet, let me read from the top. It says the Black Agenda. It says, as a specific group with a specific justice claim, the ADOS movement demands a specific agenda with policy prescriptions that address the losses stemming from the institution of slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, convict leasing, mass incarceration, and immigration. We demand a new deal for Black America, which includes but is not limited to. And then it has several bullets. All right. And I'm only going to read this first one. And this first bullet is really what fueled the gripe from Black immigrants versus ADOS. And then on both sides, it started to spiral out of control. So I'm going to read it. It says, we need, talking about ADOS is the we. We need set-asides for American descendants of slavery, not minorities, a throwaway category which includes all groups except white men. The categorization has allowed Democrats to use programs like affirmative actions as giveaways to all groups in exchange for votes. The bribery must end. That begins with a new designation on the census with ADOS and another for Black immigrants. Black immigrants should be barred from accessing affirmative action and other set-asides intended for ADOS, as should Asians, Latinos, white women, and other minority groups. And I'm going to stop there for a second. So just basic reading comprehension, because of the polarization of this topic, a lot of people just forgot how to read, really. Because what's happened, and I pointed this out before, what happens is people read this sentence here. I'm going to highlight it. They'll read this sentence and stop here. Completely out of context. They'll read this sentence that says Black immigrants should be barred from accessing affirmative action and other set-asides. So they'll cite this sentence or this part of this sentence and then say, see, ADOS is against Black immigrants. They want us barred from this. It's divisive. It's separating. It's a separationist thing. It's a ploy to just divide Black America. And what's been the outcry from the moment that this website went up. Okay, I remember it like it was yesterday. Okay, and so if we read it properly, we'll understand. And so what this is saying is that ADOS is holding Democrats accountable, probably for the first time really, that Democrats are being held accountable for the passive way in which it has been our voice in government. Now, we know that Black America has historically voted Democrat. Okay, about 80 to 90% of Blacks vote Democrat. And we are under the assumption that the Democrats have our back and they represent us in government. But what's really been going on is that Democrats have been using programs like affirmative actions as giveaways to all groups. And the reason why is because they use this category called minorities. And so they will pander and appeal demands of minority groups and not ADOS specifically. And so this is what ADOS is demanding. It's saying, no, we need specific set-asides specifically for ADOS and nobody else. Not to say that nobody else deserves their own demands and set-asides, but ADOS needs its own demands specifically, though. And that's never been done. Okay? Even affirmative action, which was originally intended for ADOS, that became an all-inclusive type of thing, which is what this is saying. Because minorities got thrown in there. And so here's the logic behind this. Okay? If the government decides to give compensation, let's say the compensation part of or element of reparations. Remember, reparations is several different things. It's not just money. But let's just take the money part, because people can easily follow that. So let's say the government pays out a certain amount of compensation to for slavery. And let's say instead of them doing it specifically for ADOS, let's say they do it for minorities. You know, that whole concept of a rising tide raises all boats, or whatever, however that saying goes. Suppose they did that. Now, guess who would get the money? Everybody but white men. That means white women who own slaves and who inherited slaves from their husbands, the husband counterparts, would get paid twice historically. Because remember, we have what's called emancipation compensation. When slavery so-called ended, the government paid slave owners. That was emancipation compensation done then, and then they would receive more compensation in terms of inheritance down the line. Now, if they were to include all minorities in that, so what sense does it make if a man rapes a woman and the woman is given a set aside from the government for restitution for that injury, but yet the victim, the woman, and the perpetrator, the rapist, both of them receive money for that same incident. Only one incident occurred, the rape, but the rapist and the victim both get money for that one event. What sense does that make? It makes no sense. So that's the logic behind this, is that we need specific set-asides to repair the damage. That's why we call it reparative justice, restorative justice, to restore us and make us whole. All right. And so what happens is, in the context, it says this begins with a new designation on the census with ADOS and another for black immigrants, which means there is a real distinction in reality, that we have a flat black class of people in America, of race. A black is a social constructed race that is composed of immigrants, and is composed of native folks that are here as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. That is a realistic difference there. And so in order to utilize data for that, for the purposes of reparatory justice or reparative justice, you have to be able to separate the data between the activities and actions of the immigrants versus those who are native. And so this designation of a separation on the census, it begins that process. That's what it says that begins with a new designation on the census with ADOS and other for black immigrants. Now it explains this. It says black immigrants should be barred from accessing affirmative actions and other set-asides intended for ADOS. Period. I mean, no one should have a problem with that. But what happens is people read and stop right here. They don't see that it's talking about any set-asides that are specifically for ADOS. It means that nobody should get access to something that is specifically set aside for ADOS. So let me give you an example for people to follow. If you are a pet owner and you have a lot of dogs, and one of your dogs has a special diet, and you got to buy some special dog food for let's just say it's a Chihuahua. So your Chihuahua takes special dog food, but the rest of your dogs take whatever else food. So you have a specific set aside for your Chihuahua. And so what you're saying, or what your Chihuahua would say if it could speak, is that no, I need specific set asides for me, and the other dogs should be barred from eating my food. Not that they don't get any food, but they should be barred from the food that's intended for me. You see what I'm saying? That's what this is saying. And if you keep reading, it says, as should Asians. So it's not just isolating black immigrants. It's saying black immigrants plus Asian immigrants plus Latino immigrants and white women. It's talking about all of them. But the reason why black immigrants is seems to be pointed out a little further than the others is because of what Democrats does and because of what we do as a collective, as a nation of people. We see black as a flat black. Because a person from Haiti, a person from any African country to this very day, if they come over here and they have dark skin, they're gonna be just put into a big bucket of people called black. But they're not the same type of black in terms of this reparative justice claim, and that has to be pointed out legally. That's all this is saying. And so I said everything I said because I'm going back on your point, Sosa. This is part that started, that ignited that fire where black immigrants have a problem with ADOS, and then it ended up spiraling out of control because people are not coming back to this and explaining it. People, instead of entertaining the back and forth emotional aspect of it, people just need to come back to this bullet point and break it down, just like how I'm doing. And every time, I mean, to me, it's clear. Like if you can read, if people got basic reading skills and understand how, how sentences are, you can see. And then the fact that Democrats have always done what they're doing right now. Instead, like look at Kamala Harris. Look at Bernie Sanders. These are Democrats, right? Whenever they're pressed on the issue of specific solutions for ADOS specifically, what have they done? What has been their response? Can any of y'all tell me?
Yeah, they'll bring back the minorities on you quick.
Exactly. They'll
with the minority community, like, whoa. They're not, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. They will always revert back to this all-inclusive thing. This all-inclusive thing, raising tides float all boats, or that concept of, like, Bernie Sanders will say, well, no, I got programs for distressed communities. He won't say I will promote programs specifically for ADOS and other blah blah blah. Instead, they don't want to put legislation together specifically for ADOS to repair the damage. And that's our problem. That's our demand. And so that's what's going on. Go ahead.
You know what I also think it is too, is like, and we're letting them get away with it. It's like, in a way, they're not fully acknowledging our Americanness. You know what I'm saying? So to speak. They're not allowing us to be fully American. Because what we're also saying is that, in layman terms, this is our house, and we're inviting guests over. But you have to make sure the people that lives in the house get the food first, and then whatever's left over, we can feed to our guests. But they're classifying us as the same as the guests. There's no priority made for us. Like we rent here, like we're just renting. You know what I mean? Like we don't live here, we rent. And I think that's you know what I'm saying? That's something that we're doing, that they're doing, and we're overlooking.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I want to add to that it is mostly our fault as well. Like, I mean, not mostly. I should say that we need to swallow that ourselves. And the reason why I say that is because collectively we have to admit that we have this mentality that lives in this paradigm that although we live here in this country, we see ourselves as outsiders, and we always say that government or they or them, like the government, that's that white man stuff, politics, that's the white man stuff. It's really politics. See, all it is politics, man. The president is already selected before he's born, and that's the mentality that people have. So we have historically been apolitical, although we have fought for civil rights, access to vote. We have fought for the ability to vote, but we never really acted upon it. You know what I'm saying? To any mass degree that we should, based on the fight that we had to gain access to it. So we've allowed them to treat us that way. And so this is the importance of ADOS. See, ADOS as a movement is changing the paradigm. It is actually forcing black folks, black America, to become politically literate, to understand what voting really means, and all of that. And we have to admit our shortcomings. And that's what people don't like. That's the pushback that people don't like about ADOS, because it puts a mirror up to us. It's like, look, man, get yourself together. You know, this is our country. Our ancestors built it. We are just as American as anybody else, although the government, because of our lack of access to it in the past, and because of our lack of participation now, the government has abused us. But nevertheless, this is our government, and we better start treating it that way and take ownership. And so this is why we need more ADOS politicians, congressmen, on a local level, state level, and the federal level. And that's the attitude that ADOS is pushing. And this is what's forcing people to start to see it that way. And if we don't,
hey, you know what?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
And so, you know what else too is like, I noticed, like what you just said, like people have a problem with you saying, this is my country. Like you get more pushback from blacks than for white people when you say that. This is my country, or, you know, I'm American. Like black people get offended now when you say that. And that's part of that, you know, that reparation that, you know, 'cause we've been fighting them for so long, is we never took the time to really mend the bridge and come on over when it was time. You know what I'm saying? We kind of stayed stuck on separation and keep, you know what I mean? But it's like, it's time to come on in now. And a lot of people are kind of resisting walking in that door.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And that's what I was saying, that we've had that attitude for a long time. And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to stay in a country and be a non-participant of the politics of the country, where the politics is on a macro level, the controlling factor of your life, and yet you live here. It's the equivalent of giving somebody the keys to your car, and then you just hopping in the trunk of the car, and then you allow them to drive you anywhere they want to go, and you have no control. That's how we're living. We live here. We've been here several generations, and we're not going anywhere, for real. Like people talk a lot of stuff and complain, but they're not going anywhere, and we can collectively. So since we're here and we got access now, let's take ownership. And that's the attitude that people need to have, and that's what people are fighting. And check this out. When you say that, like you said, when you say that, and if we say that, people will accuse us, or somebody who says that, they'll accuse us of integration. Like we want to be integrationists. We want to be like white people, or whatever the case is, not understanding the simple logic that every immigrant that comes here, whether they're black or not, European immigrants, Asian immigrants, African immigrants, Caribbean immigrants, period. When they come here, the main reason why they come here is for the opportunities, the opportunities that they believe that are here. You know, whether it's the American dream or whatever the case is, but people come here because they feel that it is a better opportunity from where they are. So what's funny is that people will come across oceans to come take advantage of the opportunities here. But the moment that we, who are already here several generations and who helped build this country to create those opportunities, the moment that we want to claim those opportunities, we're accused of being integrationists, or we want to be like white people. You see what I'm saying? So it's a lot of inconsistent logic going on. And it's all because people don't understand the issues. They don't understand really what's going on. People are acting off emotion, acting in ignorance and everything. So this is the importance of ADOS. And I'm telling y'all who are listening, ADOS is not some fly-by-night, you know, street corner debating topic and whatnot. ADOS is a movement. It is an educational and political advocacy movement. It is teaching Black America politics, legislation, and how to characterize issues that involve us for the benefit of our people in the here and now and in the future. Period. Anybody who's against that is really an enemy to us as a people. Now, of course, you get into this personalities. People don't like Yvette. People don't like Antonio. People, all that kind of stuff. Listen, all that stuff is just some sidebar petty stuff, and people just need to get over it real quick. Real quick. Because this right here is our modern day civil rights movement. This is as important to us today. It should be seen as important to us today as the civil rights was to Martin Luther King and his peers. Our parents and grandparents. All of those fights in the 60s, the whole civil rights legislation, all of those movements there. This right here is the modern day form of that. And I'm not saying that this is exactly one for one with the civil rights and everything like that. I'm saying the view of this should be seen in the same light. This is something that's very, very important, and it affects every one of us. ADOS and non-ADOS. Because once ADOS is repaired and restored, the whole country benefits from that. That's the next phase that people got to start seeing. That if we're made whole, the country is made whole. So people got to start seeing that. So, like I said, I want to keep this video as compact as I can. So, I see nobody else wanted to come in. I don't know if people are afraid that we're going to bite. So I'm going to put the link one more time. This is last call. If you want to come in the link. If you want to come in and voice some things real quick before we wrap it up and everything, I just want to start practicing keeping these videos short, because anybody that knows me, they know, I've received the nickname MC Iron Lung because I definitely talk a lot, and I'll eat that. I admit that, so I'm trying to practice and keeping these videos compact as I can, and I'll just do more videos instead of one big long 8-hour video. I'll just do an hour video 8 times. So yeah, last call. Anybody want to come in? But who else is here now? We got brother Naj, Unbiased Sports Still, and Sosa. So y'all have any additional comments you want to make? Brother Naj, we haven't heard from you, so if you wanna I don't know if your mic is working. It's not showing up. It's not showing that you activated your mic at all. So if you can hear me, brother, you may have to. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, last call.
So brother Naj, if you can hear me, you probably hear me through YouTube, which is going to be a delay. But if you can hear me, mute your YouTube, and then you should be able to hear me in here.
Okay, you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So yeah, I'm open floor to you if you have any comments or anything.
No, I just want to I kind of came in late, but I just wanted to read a quick definition for people to take grasp of, or I want people to know what the word is. I'm gonna read a quick definition, and I want to see if anybody know what the word is. Okay, the definition says the study of the rights and duties of citizenship. What's this word? Because ADOS to me is what this is teaching. Mm-hmm. So do anyone know what this word is? I can read it again.
Yeah,
the definition is the study of the rights and duties of citizenship.
I'm gonna give. I think I know, but I'm gonna give anybody else on the panel want to take a crack.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. I ain't gonna jump out there.
All right. See, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. So let me just take a stab then. Because I mean, this is something that is being removed from the classrooms, but as far as I remember, that's basic civics 101.
Yes, sir. The definition is civics. Civics.
Right.
And that's what I feel like ADOS is teaching. If we is educating people and is teaching basic civics. Because I know Yvette said, she said this a lot in her videos. She said, we may not have the wealth, we may not have the status, whatever. Only thing we have in this country is our citizenship. That's the leverage for us to do so much more than anybody coming over as an immigrant or whatever, or going through the process of naturalization. We already have citizenship. So, but we don't even want to use it.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't even want to use it. And you're right, civics has been taken out of the classrooms, and they don't teach it. Mm-hmm. It's hard to find like basic stuff, like how to do basic, like how you can let me think of one thing, like just
man, listen, hold on, let me help you out. Now I may be telling my age, but just as a show of hands inside the chat, press 1 if you are old enough to remember Schoolhouse Rock. All right, press 1 if you remember Schoolhouse Rock. All right, and I don't mean look it up now and nothing like that. I'm talking about that you actually used to watch Schoolhouse Rock. Press 1 if you used to watch Schoolhouse Rock on Saturday morning. I used to wake up Saturday morning, boy, at 7 o'clock in the morning or 7:30 in the morning, and Schoolhouse Rock used to show one of the episodes of different things. So I don't.
Yep, with the bill.
I know it's a delay, so I'm just trying to see if anybody pressed 1, or I may be telling my age or something. I need to. But how about on the panel? Any of y'all remember Schoolhouse Rock?
I remember the bill. That one with the bill. How a bill is made.
Yeah.
Looking like Alf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I'm just saying I'm backing you up on what you're saying. I agree that civics is even taken out of the classroom. And see, when we grew up, civics was like part of the class. Civics was in the cartoons and the whole nine. That's the whole point. I'm just a bill. I'm only a bill sitting here on Capitol Hill. And then it explained the whole process in a very, very, very narrow time, 3-minute long cartoon. You actually saw the process of how a bill becomes a law. And if you were to go back and watch it right now, you're like, oh man, that's the whole process. It's like summed up. It's totally summed up right there. And people gotta understand the process. But now, of course, as adults, you got to get into the details of it. But a lot of people don't even know that basic process. People don't understand you'd be surprised at how many people don't even remember or understand the 3 branches of government and their responsibilities. And,
right.
and like you said, this is civics 101. This is stuff that I remember learning in grade school. Not even high school. I didn't have to wait to college to learn that. I learned that in grade school.
Yeah.
Three branches of government.
So I hope with ADOS, so I see with ADOS, that's for those who really locking teeth into this, is that will be a residue effect of the study, that you will become civic minded in your day-to-day duties as a citizen. Because I keep repeating, Yvette always says all we have is our citizenship. That's really all we have, and we can use that to leverage. That's what anchors us in this country.
And I want to say this too, that in terms of ideology, now I'm speaking in terms of what we call the conscious community. Out of the conscious community, this type of discussions we're having would be the closest relationship to the Moore Science Temple of America, and
yes.
and the things that they focus on, which is civics. And so this is our problem. We don't take advantage of even our in-house organizations. Instead of debating and finding out who does this and who wants what and proselytize this, that, and the third, instead of using our organizations as resources when the time comes. Because, like, for example, reparative justice is a biblical thing. Just the whole idea of reparations is a biblical idea. So anybody who's a Christian, Hebrew, or whatever, who's against reparations, you can kind of stick them or reemphasize to them like, hey, wait a minute, even in your faith, brother or sister, reparations is right there or whatever. With the Moorish Science Temple, if anybody from that ideology is against reparations or against this discussion, like, wait a minute, your whole organization is based on civics. It's based on Moorish Americans. Like, instead of African Americans, because Africa is a continent, you identify with a single nation within Africa called Morocco, and that you are, Americans, but who are descendant of Morocco. And then they go into the biblical with Moab and all that. But still, is this elements there to bite on. And so instead of us taking advantage of that, everybody's debating. The Moors versus the Hebrews versus the Comedics, and this, that, and the third, So listen, we really, really got to start maturing, because these are our shots. This climate right here, right now, that's why ADOS is so on point. It's timely, it's on point, but it's going to force people to get busy, and that's what people don't like. That's the pushback. People want to find any excuse not to support it because it's forcing people to do work. So they don't like Yvette. They don't like, something she said, or Antonio. They don't like the fact that he's from LA and he always wear a LA hat. Like, people are getting real, real silly right now with the accusations and stuff like that. So we really, really got to get it together, man. And
can I say something real fast?
Oh yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it's funny how you said that that correlation when you said the ADOS had similarities with the Moors. That is crazy, because I never claimed to be American. I was always that, anti-American, Nation Islam type of rhetoric. But since this ADOS movement, I kind of like been grabbing hold of the whole American concept. So, and the Moors do the same thing. The Moors, they call themselves the American or Moorish Americans, you did. So This is the first time I can recall my consciousness not being ashamed to say I'm American. It's funny you made that correlation, because I was saying, like, damn, the Moors had that part right.
Exactly. See, and that's the thing. See, once you remove the and some Moors probably get mad at me for saying this, but once you remove the dogmatic aspects of the Moorish American Moorish Science Temple of America, and you just deal strictly with the civics of it. I mean, strictly the civics of it, the fact that, you're dealing with citizenship and all that stuff. There's no harm. There's no problem. There's no problem with that. But I see we got Lady V2K. I'm trying to give everybody a chance to speak before we close out. So if you got any comments, the floor is yours. If you're there, if you can hear us. If you're talking, your mic is muted, so you can unmute yourself and.
Hey, hello to the panel. Hey, everybody.
All right, peace. How you doing?
Peace, brothers.
Peace.
I just wanted to ask you a question as far as us identifying as African and then American last. I believe that caused a lot of confusion in the Black community, and it brought in it did bring in a lot of the Pan-African ideology. And it brought a lot of confusion with it. A lot of people did stop identifying or trying to identify and connect with American heritage. And people did try to, connect with Africa more so, even though it's so far away. And it is a real big difference in Africa than it is America, because that's a continent and not a country. And I think we showed a lot of disloyalty to the American government by identifying ourselves as African before American. We could be American African, but I really think that we showed a lot of disloyalty to the United States government by identifying ourselves as that way. And I think we may have distanced ourselves from the government by doing that. And that's just my opinion.
Okay, so let's speak to it for a second. So, because I think you raised a good point, but when you say that, boy, you're gonna get a lot of pushback. You're gonna get a lot of pushback for saying that, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because
let me just say one more thing. Okay. Because we are American and we fight in all of the wars. We built this country.
Mm-hmm.
We fight for the American government, you know, for the U.S. Army and the Navy, the Air Force. I mean, you know, my great grandfather, you know, fought in the Army. My grandfather fought, you know, in the Army. My brother, he's in the Army right now. You know, I come from a very veteran, patriarchal family to America. And I feel like it is a little confusing that we are identified as African first. But that's just my opinion. Again.
No, but let's
we understand, like I agree. It's just that they're gonna take that and they'll twist that and turn that to a whole new situation.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So now let's kind of speak on it a little bit because that statement will be misconstrued and attacked and all that kind of stuff. Because not to say that you're wrong, I think I agree with you 100%. But here's the issue, because the American government has mistreated us. When you use the word loyalty, then it's going to rub people the wrong way because the pushback will be, well, why should we be loyal to something who's abusive to us? It's almost like an abusive domestic relationship, you know, where a wife is abusing her husband or a husband abusing a wife, and it's like, okay, well, why should you put up with that? Why should you be loyal to that? And so to hear it like that, that's what is going to fuel some kind of pushback. But to support what you're saying, though, I'm gonna show this picture right here. I don't know if y'all should be able to see my screen. This is the I don't know which Olympics this. I don't know if this was the last one, but this is the Summer Olympics where black sisters they won the 400-meter relay race, and this goes for every sport in the Olympics. When you're black and you're running in these participating in these sports, you are a representative of the United States of America. You're not a representative of Africa or some kind of conceptualization of African anything. You are representing America. And notice how these sisters are draped in the American flag, and they got USA on their chest, and they have the colors on. And they make their victory lap. They wave the flag. They drape themselves in the flag, and this, that, and the third. And nobody really has a problem with that. It's only in the context of this conversation do people start to have a problem with that. And the reason why is because ADOS is forcing people to put the mirror up and to realize the reality. Because see, we've been living in this kind of fantasy land, and this is how Yvette, in her own way, has been articulating things, but it's kind of got her, you know, some pushback when she talks about Pan-Africanism and stuff like that. But we've been living in this sort of bubble fantasy world as an outsider. We live in America. We're American citizens. Our passport says our nationality is United States of America. We have citizenship here. We have a right to vote here. We could run for office. We do all these kinds of things, but yet we live like we're outsiders. The moment we say American, people are like, oh man, America, that, we get this feeling. And so what you're saying when we say African American, now we didn't name the continent Africa, but what we did do over here in the West, we actually manifested or crystallized the concept of an African. Because really, there's no such thing as an African anything. Because Africa, even prior to the nations that we know of today, the 54 nations, Africa was never ever united as this homogeneous conceptualized entity. There was no concept of this grand Africanness thing. Everybody, you didn't have the concept of social race that we have today. People saw themselves, although they shared brown skin or skin colors and skin tones, they still did not see themselves as the same because they had a different criteria for distinctions. They had a criteria of language. They had a criteria of mode of production as far as food. They had a criteria of weaponry used. All these different cultural items was used for criteria of distinction. So you have the even in Kenya, you got the Kikuyu that are different than the Luo people, but they look similar. They live in the same place, but they still saw themselves as different from one another. And so there was never ever an instance where we had this idea, this macro Africanness type of thing. That's what we made manifest. We manifested that, and we had to. Now, I'm not saying it's a evil thing to do, but it's a consequence to the transatlantic slave trade, because we lost our identity and we don't know exactly where we come from or who we come from. Over time, we've created this extra macro entity called Africa so we can identify with it. So we say African American, but everybody else will say I'm Kenyan American, I'm Jamaican American, I'm Haitian American. Everybody else puts their nation first. We put continent first. That's because that's what we got to do. I mean, that's a consequence of something. So we got to keep that in mind. But go ahead.
Yeah, and you know, even though we all came from different places when we came over here, we was all put into one pot and cooked up together.
Yeah.
So we stand on the fact that, you know, we had to stand on the fact that we are the same. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. With no time to start separating, you know what I'm saying? So we stand, okay, look, we had to come up with one name. We all know we from that area. You know what I mean? But we just never updated.
So now so check this out. So now here's so what happened is you have culture that has grown organically, and culture is made up of various different elements, and the elements sum up to a way a group of people solve its problems collectively. And so what happens is, because of the transatlantic slave trade, multiple different ethnicities and slightly difference in cultural nuances of people taken from West Africa and a little bit of inner Africa or what have you, they were brought here to the Americas. Some went to the Caribbeans, some went to the here in the colonies, and then what became the states. We started to have this shared experience. And because that shared experience, it sped up the natural evolutionary process of a culture being created. It sped that process up to where we are a result of that Holocaust. And so we have a cultural birth, and we chose to call it ourselves African Americans. We are a creation of America. And if we want to be specific, we are a creation of the transatlantic slave Holocaust or trade, however you want to word it. We are a result of that. And
right.
so
right.
ADO. Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
And Pan-Africanism sometimes causes confusion within the black community, within Black families, especially when it comes to patriotism towards America, and actually participating in the American government, when you have stuff, Pan-African thoughts, schools of thoughts that's directing your attention across the ocean to other heritage. So that's all I wanted to say.
No, yeah, and
I understand.
Yeah, and that's it. If you were to just clear the smoke away, because Pan-Africanism is an aspiration. If you listen to the definition now, even within Pan-Africanism, you got different Pan-Africanists who may differ on the premise, the core definition of that. I have seen that too. But overall, what comes out of that is a sense of outlawism, meaning that people who live in America, who are technically American citizens, who adopt the idea of do for self and self-determination, they execute that in such a way to where they don't participate in this country's affairs, or they position themselves as an outsider. And so anything dealing with America, quote unquote, is looked at as being a traitor to your people, to your race, and this, that, and the third, and so on and so forth. And so to those people, I've asked, even on Facebook, I said, listen, with that attitude, it's not a problem, but why don't people like have that mentality leave and do that? Because that's the only way it makes sense, is if you say those things somewhere else. But if you stay here and you're like 4 generations here, and then you got children who were born here, and then you're complaining, and you're not going to participate, and you know how the process works, that politics indirectly controls your life, and you're not willing to participate in it, but yet you're going to stay here and you're just going to complain, and you have this ideology that you're going to do self-determination, this, that, and the third. See, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Not to say that Pan-Africanism doesn't make sense. It just some ways that people try to execute that mentality or that paradigm doesn't make sense. And so
it further victimizes already victims, poor people, the Black community. It causes more confusion.
Right. And so, to avoid, people getting upset with me on Pan-Africanism, I'm just going to limit it to this. Pan-Africanism, I believe, if people were to go back to the core principles of Pan-Africanism, which what gave it its name and ideologies, go back to the core people, go back to the core books and texts, go back and study that. Also look at Cheikh Anta Diop's book. I forget the exact title. I'm paraphrasing. Is dealing with state of Africa, a federated state. He has a book called, it's not even that thick, where he's basically outlining an aspiration to have a Africa as a federated state. Those are ideals and things, aspirations and things that we may need to take serious in the days and times that we're living in. But this issue about ADOS is something separate. Like, I don't even think that Pan-Africanism, Caribbeanism, none of that stuff should even be a part of this conversation, because this is a very specific and narrowly scoped claim about a specific group of people here who were born here, who ancestors built this country, et cetera, and we're the descendants of victims of an incident and several incidences that came up out of that, and it's targeting a specific government. So the whole conversation about Pan-Africanism should not even be part of it.
Well, the reason why I brought it up is because the backlash that we get from the immigrants, because, I mean, don't get me wrong, I have a lot of African friends. I have dated an African male, and we're still friends. And I don't know. I know they a lot of Americans have given them that idea that they want them to come over and flood the country or the neighborhoods or what have you, due to Pan-Africanism. And they have a right to not feel some kind of way and not feel welcome. They do. They have a right, and it's a reason why they feel like that, and it's because of that whole movement. That's all, and I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I think we thought that too. Like it would be like a both of us extending olive branches, and in a lot of cases that because see, one thing too, and I don't even knock them for it, is that when you're an ADOS person, right, and let's say you lived in Harlem your whole life, you have your lineage in Harlem. When you make it out or when you come into some money, you feel a certain type of attachment to Harlem, and you may seek to improve Harlem because that's where you lived your life, your mothers, and you grew up wanting to change things there. You know what I'm saying? But when somebody else who have just come over, and you can't knock them for it, and I don't knock them for it, but it's just that they don't have that type of attachment to certain things that we do, so they're gonna act differently. And I think that's what the ADOS is really trying to point out too. Like, in certain situations, when you're dealing with ADOS people, you really need ADOS representatives, because only an ADOS person most of the times can see things and articulate it in a way that's beneficial for you.
Yeah, and I want to say this to the sister when I said that Pan Africanism shouldn't even be part of conversation. I wasn't talking about our conversation. I was talking about just overall the in the advocacy. Like Pan Africanism should have never been an issue, to begin with, really, because it's not even involved, and I don't even think to advocate ADOS, the reparations for ADOS and all that stuff. It doesn't even intrude on Pan Africanism. So really, it's a waste. And again, I don't mean our conversation, so I don't mean you and anything you said, but I'm saying overall, I think that the whole Pan African part of the conversation is really a diversion. It detours us off of the real issues that we should be discussing, because people could be Pan Africanists and be an ADOS person and advocate ADOS. So the problem is just the talk, the fussing that's going on about the assumption that ADOS is against Pan Africanism and vice versa, and I see it on both sides, because see what happens is some Pan Africanists they want to include a global claim within a local claim, and so the pushback from ADOS side is that no, brother, this is not a global claim. This is strictly for the United States. This claim, and then the Pan African side is saying, but wait a minute, all of us suffer from slavery. As far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, that all of us was taken from West Africa. As far as I know, some of us went to the Caribbean. As far as I know, some of us went to the United States. As far as I know, so you get that pushback, and then so on the ADL side, we got to push back and say, well, wait a minute, okay, we understand that slavery. Yes, slaves was taken to the Caribbean. Slaves was taken to the colonies. We know that, but this claim, my brother, is strictly talking about the United States case, the case here in the United States. And then Pan Africans like, well, it shouldn't be like that. We should join together, because white supremacy is everywhere, it's global, and we got to fight together. We got to unite. The only way we can fight white supremacy globally is if we unite globally. So then the arguments goes back and forth unnecessarily. And I hope everybody in the chat is hearing me.
The only reason why I'm saying that is because we could say that we're all African, because we Americans, ADOS, consider ourselves African.
Right. So, and that's but even when we say that, that's an anthropological context, because like I am of African descent, and when and all of us on the panel can say the same. When we say that, we're only talking through anthropology, though. We have African descent.
But the average person don't know that. They don't study. They don't understand that. Like, I had to study Pan-Africanism to find out, what was going on. Right. I was just running around calling myself African American my whole life because I was told I was African. But when I had to find out what it really meant, and what I thought it meant, that ain't what it meant. I had to learn about Africa and the different countries. The average person don't study or read that deep. If the government, we take a claim to a title of African American, and that's what people go with. That's what they do.
And that's a problem. So that's why why
I said it caused a lot of confusion, because they were, following the leaders. They were following their leaders when they made that claim for us.
Well, that's the thing. That's what makes ADOS advocacy so important now, because a part of advocating reparations is education. It's educating people. And so, like me, I do my best to try to offer clarity. Like even right now, I can recognize what both sides of that argument are saying, but I also know why one side is saying what they're saying and the other side is saying what they're saying. Like I just gave the scenario. Mm-hmm. Pan-Africanists, they're looking at what ADOS people are saying, and they're saying that no, you shouldn't do it that way. You need to make it a global claim. And then ADOS people are pushing back and say, no, this is not a global claim. It's a specific claim. So that's where it really, really starts. But there's really no beef. It shouldn't be any beef between the two. Go ahead.
Oh, I would advise anyone who's into Pan-Africanism to watch Dr. Tracy McCarthy's last video she put up, the African Immigrant Caucus.
Yeah.
And man,
yeah.
What's it called? I ain't seen it yet.
The AIC, African Immigrant Caucus.
They're not a Pan-African organization. They're exclusively fighting for the rights of African immigrants in the U.S. and they have formed a caucus. They are well organized machine. I felt really bad. I felt kind of embarrassed because like we're getting to that point. You know, but they got their stuff together, but they're not talking this Pan-African stuff, and they're very exclusionary. They not including American blacks, and that's not their objective. They have specific needs, and they have people they trying to run off the local level up into the state level, up into the federal level, to have someone in Washington to deal with their issues. And there's nothing wrong with what they're doing, but I just want to point out that they're not Pan-African with their approach. They understand Africa. It's like they came together all as a block almost, and they're getting stuff. They moving the ball on certain things, and you know I'm not mad at them for doing it, but it's like we have on our side we have Pan-Africans telling us not to do things like that.
Yeah, and that's the way they should do it, because you got to think like if we all riding on the same boat. All they gotta do is blow one boat up, and then all of us done. All of us done. We need all of us still on different boats, because all of us got different claims. You know what I'm saying? We got different ways to attack. You know what I'm saying? So we all on the same boat. We can fall victim to failing because of something that was said on something that's not established on one side. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We get our evidence mixed up with others. Hold on, that's not you. That happened. That's them. There's too much confusion. So it got to be narrowed down, so it's very concise, and there ain't no wiggle room.
Now, two things. I just want to because you brought up Dr. Tracy McCarthy, and I definitely recommend everyone to go subscribe to her YouTube channel. I did notice that a couple of her videos that she had, I think she took them down, and I believe that she was gonna create a specific channel for ADOS issues, but she had a lot of good videos about the legal aspects. I mean, very concise, very bite-sized videos about the legal aspect of this whole ADOS conversation. And they were really, really good. And I actually messaged her and asked her what happened to the videos, because I had already, put links and telling people to go to them, and all of a sudden they disappeared. But anyway, subscribe to her channel because she's a attorney.
She got a new channel. She got a new channel. It's called the Ancestry and something. Wow. She has a new channel with this topics. Those old videos, she don't have them up on this new channel, but she does have her new channel separate from this other channel.
Okay, so maybe she intends on uploading them. So hopefully that's the case, because they were really, really good. I think they are valuable, very valuable. So hopefully enough people will kind of get on her and get her to put those back up if that was her intention. But yeah, subscribe to her channel.
That's what made me point today with the Pan-African. I'll leave it alone. You never hear people who speak Pan-African advocate for the people that in the Andaman Islands, Sanibel Islands, West Papua New Guinea. Are they not black people? I never hear them advocate for them. Never. Aborigines in Australia. I never hear people who are everything's predicated on the slave trade. But then we all got to come together globally to fight white supremacy globally. But these people are fine, and these people are fine in their countries. The Papua New Guinean people are fine. The people in Tasmania, the blacks there, they're fine. They're not trying to run back to Africa. We know they all come from there, but they're not forming movements to run back to Africa from Papua New Guinea or from Aborigines. Like, I never hear our Pan-Africans fight for them though. But, anyway.
Yeah, let me say this because like I said, we could talk all night, and I want to do my best to keep this compact. And it's probably everybody who's probably gonna come on here, so I'm not gonna give the link out anymore. But I want to say this, that just a kind of quick review. But let me speak on that last point real quick. That a lot of the problems or things that we're going through right now are some of it is our own fault, because we bought into the social construct of race, not understanding the consequences of it. So, for example, like what the racial hierarchy is really a caste system, and because they use colors as the labels for these ranking levels, we tend to socialize or associate, the colors with phenotype and how people look. And so, like when we say we're black, even though no one is the actual color black, the literal color black, we in our minds we have a range of skin colors and features that we just include in that broad category called black. And then we got a category of white, and then we got this ideal image in our mind of who should fit in that category. But we base it on looks, and by us emphasizing that aspect of it, we forget the caste aspect of it, where black is really a failure rank. It's a failure consumer rank. It's at the bottom, whereas white is a producer and ownership rank within the social construct. And so we saying we're black and we're proud and we associate with black and this, that, and the other. On one hand, we're talking about us as a people because we share this range of looks and heritage. But on the other hand, we're feeding into the social aspect of always being at the bottom. And so this is what ADOS is doing as well. ADOS is forcing us to recognize those two things and to take account for it. So now it's like, okay, well, we can't deal with this flat black anymore. We have to understand our position, and we have to be made whole so that we can take ownership and become an ownership class of people now. And a controlling class and an ownership class. And so that's what people have to understand. That's one of the things that people should take away from the ADOS conversation, because that's something that I think people are missing and should be underlined a little bit more. And then another thing is that with Pan-Africanism, one of the main definitions of Pan-Africanism, like if you I saw a video recently where a definition was read by an elder, within the movement, within the ideology, Pan-African ideology, and I'm paraphrasing, but one of the things he said is that we're all of African descent, and we have a shared culture, heritage, and we're one people, something to that extent. And so, but when you really analyze the full definition of what's said, it really boils down to the transatlantic slave trade that people are talking about. Because if you think about it, technically, if humanity started in Africa, that means every human living on the planet can ultimately trace their ancestry back to Africa. Okay? But that's not how we use it when we speak in a day-to-day conversation. But technically, everybody on the planet can do that. So everybody has African ancestry. So when a Pan-Africanist say that we have African ancestry, when we say it, we're really talking about a time period, a more recent time period, and it's always triggered by the transatlantic slave trade. And so because the transatlantic slave trade is the barometer or the litmus for these ideologies that we have, then I don't see why or how anybody would have a problem with the acronym ADOS about us being United States citizens, which is what we are, and us being lineal descendants of victims of this tragedy, this tragic event. That is the litmus for all the ideologies. And so now you can begin to see a little bit more how ridiculous it is that people are arguing over all that, because we have the same litmus. It's just that people don't understand the tactics in fighting this fight. The justice claim is a specific claim. The Pan-Africanist goal is more global, and we both of those things can be done. It's not this or that. It could be an and. Like instead of putting an or in there, put an and in there, and then let the people who are fighting the local fight, and the people who are rounding up and getting ready for a global aspect of it, let them do that. Like, we should be able to get along and actually share and support each other. Like the local fight should support the global fight. The global fight should support the local fight, if that's the case. And so once we can get to that point, I think we'll have a lot more progress. And we got to do that real fast, because 2020 is a window. It's going to be on us in a hot minute. You know, we got 18 months before elections for this cycle. This is a window of opportunity, and we need to take advantage of it. But, you know, I want to take a little bit of time to check out the comments. So, you know, read some of anybody's questions or comments in here for a bit, and then I'll end. All right, because I always make I want to make a habit of including people in the chat a bit. So give me a second. So listen, if anybody who's listening to us, if you have a comment or a question specifically that you want us to kind of address or something, type it in right now. But in the meantime, I'm gonna scroll up a bit and check out some of these comments. If you came late to the conversation, anybody who's saying I saw somebody say something about HR 40. Where'd it go? Wow, it went up too fast. Where'd it go? HR 40. I think it was Jeremiah Judah. Man. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Jeremiah Judah said HR 40 is a joke. And so I can tell, Jeremiah Judah, that you came to this conversation a little late. Because if you take time to go back and listen to the beginning of this video, I kind of addressed all of that. So I'm not going to repeat it right now. So just go back to the video. And then people are saying cut the checks, right? And I addressed all that. So please take time out to check out that. Okay, so I'm gonna put this question to y'all. It's Zane Montego says, what do you think about Pan-Africans to face toward the UN and the UAE for reparations? I'm gonna put that on the floor. So what do y'all feel about Pan-Africanists and the stance and the arguments that are being made under the umbrella of Pan-Africanism? How do you feel about them going to the UN or the UAE for reparations?
When he said UAE, he talking about the United Arab Emirates, or like what does it mean by the UAE?
Okay, he'll probably hear you and clarify that, but let's just go with the UN for now. What do y'all think about that?
I think it's like it's a lot like Yvette said. She had did a good show when she was talking about Pan-Africanism and how far when it could have been successful, and she talked about how it had like a small window when it could have been beneficial. When the African leaders, Patrice was alive, Biko, people like that, and she talked about that small window and like how all those people got killed. And they put in like puppets, Western puppets there. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah, they call them surrogates
yeah. And so I think that appealing, like I said, on a national level like that, I don't think it'll work. You know what I mean? I think it's best to keep it local. Like I said, when you do a national level, man, now you include so many people gonna jump in that. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So many people gonna get involved in that. It's gonna be too watered down.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be too watered down.
I want to make 2 points. about that though, real quick. The UN, there's some reports, like you can actually see this online. There is the UN has made actual recommendations about reparations and saying that the United States should deal with reparations for slavery. So it is an official UN. I forget the actual agency or branch of the UN, but there is an official recommendations out there from the UN side. But the problem with that is that it's not binding on the United States. So although it exists, although it's a recommendation and everything like that, it's not binding. So it's not enforceable. And so, look into that, in terms of that question. That's for Brother Kadeem. Look more into that, and you'll see that the UN has already made that determination and recommendation. But I want to show this on the screen to address something else that I've seen pop up. I don't know where the comment went, but let me just share this. If y'all can see this right here. So right now, real quick, I'm showing on the screen. Okay, one of the big issues that keeps coming up is, why do ADOS advocates, why do they attack? No, I'll do it the other one first, the left one first. Why don't ADOS advocates go to Republicans? Why don't we deal with Republicans and deal with a Republican candidate and this, that, and the third? And in a nutshell, because this probably deserves its own show and discussion, but in a nutshell, the Republican political paradigm and stance is small government. Okay, and so what I'm showing on the left hand side is an abcnews.com snapshot, but you can go to the website and see the whole article. It's talking about the Trump administration proposes a $7.1 billion funding cut to the education department. And I'm showing this to show one of many examples of how the Republicans have and can be classified or described as people or a party of small government. Now, that does not work for us, because any reparations program is going to need big government, because reparations, just the compensation portion of reparations is going to take trillions. And then you have policies and programs that need to be in place that's also going to cost money and have to be put into legislation, etc. So we need people who are already known for big government, which is the Democratic Party. So that's one. And then two, the reason why ADOS, now that was the reason why ADOS doesn't like go towards Republicans and this and that. Now the reason why we put fire under Democrats is because, one, we known historically to vote Democrat. So the Democratic Party owes us, because if it wasn't for us, they wouldn't be voted into office for these several decades in the first place. So they owe us. They have a history. They're indebted to us. Two, they're supposed to represent our voice in government, because voting, and this is something that deserves its own show too, voting is an exchange. You give your vote in exchange for policies and programs and protections for the government. And so we've been voting Democrat for decades now, and we have to hold them up to the end of their bargain. It's just that we have been apolitical. We haven't been participating and politically competent to where we've been allowing the Democrats to basically pacify us and give the appearance that they are our voice in government. So, for example, now what's happening right now, as you can see with Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, and the others, whenever the specifics of reparation comes up for ADOS, they dodge it by coming up with these programs that's all inclusive for multiple groups instead of just ADOS. So what they're doing now, and what we got to watch out for, is what you see on the right hand side. So now what they're going to do, they're trying to diminish the leverage that we have as ADOS people, and they're pandering now to the Latino community. And even as I say that, this is not in any way, shape, or form a shot at the Latino community, but what's happening is the Democratic Party is going to use the Latino community to diminish our leverage of our vote. So now they're going to appeal to the demands and the interest of the Latino community to gain their votes. And with the spillover from the black vote and the Latino vote, now they have, a full body of votes that they can count on, and so on and so forth. So these are the things that we got to discuss and be mindful of, because Latino vote is going to, if they had it their way, it will replace the black vote. And so, but now this is not just something that just popped up overnight. this has been going on for quite a long time. It's just now with ADOS advocacy, now people are being educated. This is why you see the hashtag woke ADOS, because now we're waking up to these processes and how this thing works. And so we're seeing it happen. We can go back and we can say, wait, wow, affirmative action, like they starting to include everybody. Like, for example, CBC, which stands for the Congressional Black Caucus, and the NAACP, they are now fully behind the what's called the Equality Act, which deals with discriminatory issues with the LGBT community. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but they're pushing and promoting that, but they're absent of pushing and promoting specifics with ADOS and reparations. And so that's what people don't understand. People think that ADOS is trying to be selfish. Like it's either us or nobody. It's not that type of party. It's like, okay, fine. Like, we know LGBT got issues. We know the Latino community got issues. Fine. Set up policies and programs for them too. Okay, cool. But what about us? Like, where are the specifics for us? Because we are the damaged goods. Our ancestors built this country. Your freedom, white America's freedom, was built off the backs of our ancestors. And that was a very profound statement by Yvette when she framed it like that. We got to understand that the British folks came over here looking for opportunity and declared their independence and created another country here. And in order to maintain their freedom, they did that on the backs of our ancestors. Our ancestors built a country for them so that they can maintain an ownership class of people to maintain their freedom. And it's been going on ever since, to this very day, to the point where the United States is the superpower of the world. Period. And so we have to understand that. And so this is why we're demanding our set-asides, our specific things. And so the Democrats are now looking for a way to dodge it. And we got to hold them up to it. So this is why we are focused on the Democrats and not the Republicans, because the Republicans is I mean, you look. Man,
they already calling Yvette pro-Trump right now. Can you imagine if she says something about trying to pander to the, you know what I'm saying? Pander to the Republicans, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And that makes no sense, because and this is why Yvette specifically said that she is not a Trump supporter. So no matter what she says, people are going to say that. I mean, she, in her last video, she said it outright in straight English. Like, she's never been registered as a Republican or anything. She said the one thing, she said Trump is wrong about 90% of the things. She said on the one thing that he got right was issues around immigration.
Yeah, and black people we broke, and our schools are bad, which was a true statement. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're doing bad right now, and our schools are terrible. You know what I'm saying? Like,
now, what happens is people take those sound bites, but they don't even see the whole discussion. Video. And the point that she makes is that Trump, she doesn't support Trump. She challenges Trump. She tried to, and she wanted to challenge Trump, but people didn't allow her because everybody was talking about Russia. And then ADOS got accused of being Russian bots and this and that. So it derailed her argument about, Trump's administration. And so she was going to argue Trump's administration on the issue. She was going to present, information about the issues themselves and show that he's wrong about 90% of the things, but then he's right on a couple of things. Not that she supports. But it's like, okay, Trump, if this is the case, then what you gonna do about it?
Exactly.
Like, what you gonna do about it? And that's the thing. But people didn't allow her. Now she's being called a Trump supporter and MAGA supporter. So it gets crazy. But
and I'm seeing the Democrats too. With a lot of that too is them putting that propaganda out because they see what's going on. They're even though they're acting, doing a pretty good job acting. Like, they're made uncomfortable by them reparation questions. Mm-hmm. Like, as soon as it comes up, they kind of, you can see them get to kind of fumbling around with it. Like, they don't want to have to deal with that. So, so to take steam out of the ADOS movement, they they try to put that fear tactic in you. You know what I mean? Those the Trump supporters over there, they're trying to get you to withhold your vote. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So they're trying to get the bullseye off them and shift it someplace else.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me do. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You could say something, but I just want to address a couple things and then wrap it up because I'm looking at some comments. Anybody have comments about that?
Just gonna say real fast. I don't speak for the whole ADOS movement, but I think the Democratic Party needs to be broken because they're gonna play with us all the way up until the 2020. Even though everybody talking reparation, I think they're gonna still try to find a way to play with us. And I think when they're broken, they need to know that we did it. So if when the next cycle comes, they will be coming back pretty much crawling on their hands and knees to really give us exactly what we want. Now, I don't speak for the whole ADOS, but it's like I just think they plan a lot of times with us, and they don't think that we can break them, and we can. We can break the Democratic Party, but I'm not suggesting that we do anything, but that's just how I feel when I hear them get up and talk about reparations, and it's like they only grandstanding and talking about it because it's a talking point, but who will shut the government down for us? That's how I look at it. Which Democratic candidate or president will shut, like Trump did, shut the government down like he did for the wall? Who will do that for us?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, Gabe.
Right. And so this is what the advocacy is about. Like the one thing that ADOS advocacy, the spirit behind it is a very no-nonsense, cut to the chase, straight shooter, warrior type of spirit. And it stems from, and this is what people don't like about Yvette, because one, she's a woman, and then two, either she's too light-skinned or whatever the case is. But that's her stance, and that's the spirit behind the things that she say and how she says it. Now you have Dr. William Darity, who's a professional. He's been trained in the field. He's one of the nation's top leading economists and so on and so forth. If you listen to his approach, he says the exact same things, but if you listen to how he says it, it's different than how Yvette says it, of course. And so with that dynamic, and plus Antonio, so with that dynamic, and I'm just mentioning those three, it's pretty well rounded, and people got to understand that we need all of those different flavors within the mix. So I want to I'm showing this on the screen real quick. This is one of President Trump's tweets, recent tweets. This is from March 22nd. He says, today in Florida, whatever FLO FLOTUS stands for, and I may be behind on that. I don't know what FLOTUS stands for. I know POTUS, but
First Lady.
Oh, First Lady. Okay, of the United States. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. So I guess Mr. President and First Lady Trump were honored to welcome and meet the leaders from the Bahamas, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, and St. Lucia. Those are the Caribbean nations, and they're meeting with Trump. But the reason why I bring this up is because Yvette, now listen, with no evidence at all, people are accusing Yvette of being a Trump supporter. She never met with Trump. She challenges him, and she got video after video saying how Trump is wrong and this, that, and the third. But yet she's accused of being a Trump supporter, Trump lover, and MAGA and this, that, and the third. But yet we got Caribbean nations, leaders from the Caribbean nations meeting with Trump, breaking bread with Trump, and yet they're not called Trump lovers or Trump supporters and this, that, and the third. You see what I'm saying? So we got a real problem in our communities when it comes to addressing issues. Like, we don't know how to accurately describe issues and address them. We get into some emotional rants, and so I just want to show this as an example. This is recent. Look at those flags back there. You got the United States, and you got all of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other Caribbean nations flags sitting at the table, breaking bread. So why can't we do the same? I mean, if we chose to, you see what I'm saying? So it's crazy. It's crazy. But you know, I want to wrap it up because you know we've been at it a long time. Hopefully, anybody that jumped in the chat and is talking about HR 40, because I see Judah, what's his name? Jeremiah Judah. He's talking about HR 40, but I'm looking at his comments and pretty much everything that he's mentioning, I had already spoke to and addressed really. So just kind of rewind this video and go back, and I'm gonna continue the conversation. So this is not gonna be the only conversation. So you know, if anybody got something else to talk about, you know, save it, and I'm gonna go. You know, I'm gonna do this again. I'm gonna open the panel up again, and the whole nine. So I want to thank everybody for listening, hanging out with me for tonight. I know it's late, and for those of you on the panel, so I'm gonna let you all get a last word in. If anybody has,
thank you. I just want to thank you for all the work that you're doing. I appreciate you. I pray for your protection and your blessings to you and your family, and just keep on doing what you're doing because you're.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that. Thanks. You know, I'm just doing me. You know, so but I appreciate that for sure, definitely.
And thank you to the panel too. Shout out to all the panel. I appreciate y'all too. Keep up the good work. Be one.
All right, and I appreciate you, and we need more well, women, of course, definitely, to be vocal and to kind of help clarify. Like we got to do a lot of clarifying right now because we're coming to the end of March, and we don't need to really go into this summer wave of the same old bickering and stuff like that. So anybody needs to step up and just offer clarity. Don't add to the fuel of the arguments. Just offer clarification. You know, people have a problem with the acronym. Just break it down. Like, okay, well, if you like the word African American, hey, just use that, because guess what? HR 40, if you support that, it still says African American in there. Can you see that? Like, yeah, it does. Okay, well, just roll with that then. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. All right, bet. You know, I mean, we got to get over the pettiness. You know, real quick.
I want to give you a shout out too, man. Thank you for you doing your channel. And just let people know that they, you know, just know who you're getting your information from. Because everybody out here all of a sudden becoming political experts. And when they were just now debating with Hebrews and Moors and stuff last week, but now they political experts. And they'll tell you everything about who to vote for and how to do politics. So people, you know, don't let these people fool you, man. Like, some of these people want them around, you know, when this political discourse was taking place, but now they position themselves as the people who understand politics. So people just, you know, fam, just study, man. Study on your own. Know for yourself. And when you hear these people talk, you'll be able to hear a lot of the contradictions, because, you know, everybody right now is a hot topic, ADOS. And get it from the source. Tony, Vet, they the main ones pushing this. Go to Dr. Darity, read his works, and do your own personal study. But, you know, no one should be telling you to go call a senator. Like, if you're doing civics, you probably already done that. If you're doing your civics, you know. So that's all I want to say.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up that civics thing earlier, because that's what it's about. Basic civics, and either those of us who did have civics class in school, either we didn't pay too much attention and we barely passed, or, you know, paid attention and know what the time it is. You know, I was always intrigued with civics, math, and science. My least favorite subject in school was English literature, like reading Beowulf and Macbeth and all that stuff. I that's something I never got into. Everything else I did. I was straight. I loved it and the whole nine. But civics is very, very important, and you don't realize that at a young age. But you kind of plug in immediately. And one thing that plugged me in, when I was in University of Maryland, I took an African American Studies class. I don't know if that was the name of the class specifically, but I remember in that class, this was 1990, and I remember the professor telling us about HR. It wasn't called HR 40 then, but he was telling us about reparations and finally a piece of legislation that dealt with it, and he was talking about John Conyers HR 40. Well, it wasn't HR 40 again when it first was introduced, but he was talking about that. And then later on, my first time being summoned to jury duty in court, that kind of opened me up to the application of civics. Like you know, you learn it in school, but you know, you just living your life. You don't think about anything. But when I had to serve jury duty, as well as, you know, learning in the school and stuff, that kind of put me on with civics to keep my finger on the pulse a bit. You know what I'm saying? So I think so that's where my path comes in, and I just kind of paid attention. And so now, I mean, you know, with Obama running for office the first time, running for presidency the first time, I think that woke up a lot of people in Black America to at least vote. Like, even if people didn't understand the power of voting and what it all means, but at least people got up and left their houses and participated as far as Obama's concerned. So I think from that point till now, so from 2008 till right now, man, there's really no excuse for us. So, man, get your learning on. Get your learning curve on. But I know I'm taking up more time, but go ahead. Anybody else?
Yeah, let me go in real fast. You can hear me?
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
This is Unbiased Sports. Yeah, well, Wujawu, you got to come on a little more often because a lot of us are subscribed to different channels, and we are turned off at anyone really bashing ADOS. Like, I can't listen to anybody that's bashing ADOS. You dig? So that's put more pressure on you to, you know, come live a little more often to kind of replace who we're kind of like falling back from for right now.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely gonna do it. I'm gonna come on.
And also monetize your video. See, we get too spooky whereas we don't deserve support, financial support. This is one white guy, all right guy, or all right wing guy. This guy gets $65,000 a month. Month.
Oh man! Then they got a nerve to say Yvette and them must.
This guy gets $65,000 a month. I couldn't believe that, man.
Right.
But we get spooky when it comes to money. I don't get spooky. Give me your money, all right? Y'all want to send me something? Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. because this stuff.
Yeah, we want to support because we know this is time consuming, but we want to. You know, we need the information. We need the diversity and, you know, different people speaking. So we know it take a lot of your time, and I don't mind sending something. You know, you might want to read a book or buy certain whatever.
Well, let me say something real quick because you know, I do like most people know me for my research and teaching about Kemet and the language. That's what most people know me for, and like this topic seems real odd. Because people just don't know this part of the things that I dealt with and stuff and things that I've been active in. Like, because my mother's been one of the chair people in BIG, Blacks in Government in DC and stuff. So and then other people she's networked with in other organizations. Like a lot of the civil rights leaders, my mother has rubbed shoulders with, elbows with, and stuff like that. And, you know, I was young, of course, but you know, she kind of shared all that stuff and everything. So this is something that, you know, I'm not a stranger to, but it's not my specialty, of course. And I wouldn't profess to be an expert or whatever. Like I'm definitely learning and I'm just adding to the conversation. But to what you were saying though, see, and I want to direct it to Yvette and Antonio, right? See, they take donations on their channels. And people give, and so they're not. So ADOS is not an organization. So that's one thing people need to get straight. It's not an organization. So it's not an organized structure where you got chapters in different states and stuff. Although it may form into that, you know, especially after the first convention, that may be part of a plan, a future plan. But right now it's just a movement. And so in order for Yvette or Antonio to dedicate time to keep up with the research, keep up with the real time news, and to put their whole mind around these issues and and concepts to develop strategies and to actually do the work and push others to do the work, because it's not just about them. They need support. And think about it. If anybody has to worry about where their rent money is coming from, where their electric bill money is coming from, then you can't fully function in this type of endeavor. And the same way with those of us who research and study information. Like, you know, I've written books and stuff to you know, it's an exchange. It's like, okay, I'm giving information, help people out, but in exchange, you pay for the book that helps support me and whatnot. But now, even in that, people accuse you, oh, you a book hustler or this, that, and that. And people don't understand that this kind of stuff does need to be supported, because what you're really doing is you're buying time. Like you're paying to gain time to dedicate to this kind of stuff. And how would you feel if Yvette, like I'm just gonna use Yvette and Antonio. What if they worked a 9 to 5? Let's just say at Walmart. I'm just gonna say, like, let's say at Walmart or somewhere, they just work some kind of third shift for somebody, and then they come on YouTube and spitting all this information about politics. Would you trust them more if they had that situation, or if they were able to dedicate their full time to the politics? And the answers should be the second option. You would want somebody who actually dedicates time to this, who has time to research, who has time to read everything, who has time to network, who has time to do, you know, A, B, and C. And so this is why we support, or should support. Nobody should question, oh, where you know, where's the money going, where this and that. They're not, you know, saying that they're going to buy a school and then spend 4 years asking for donations for a school that you know, or product that's not going to that doesn't come to fruition and stuff. They're just asking for donations. They're not even telling you, like, specifically to donate for X. They're just saying support. Like just support the channel, support what they're doing. And, you know, so anyway, so, you know, I agree with what you're saying. So even on our other channel, the Seshu Mani Metanetra channel that I deal with, me and the rest of the group, we deal with ancient Kemet and everything. All this needs to be supported, because there's plenty of books that I got in my shopping cart. Boy, listen, and I got a birthday coming up, by the way, so I may share my shopping cart with everybody if anybody want to donate to my my book shopping cart, because if you saw my book shopping cart, boy, you would say, wow, you know. But it's a lot of stuff.
And with y'all real quick, what you're doing is actually in line with Kemet, because I've been to Kemet. And the governmental structure, or what they were doing out there, it was a government. I forgot what temple we went to, but it was they were measuring the taxes that you pay every year with the rise and fall of the Nile Valley. But they were definitely doing government out there. Please believe it. You write it, and you still within your genre of what you're doing, man.
Oh, listen, trust me, man. When I talk about Kemet administration and the governmental structure, man, that's down the pipe. We got that queued up. So we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about, you know, the governmental structure, how. And this is the thing, just real quick, since you brought it up, then give me an excuse to talk longer. Real quick though, if you think about it, Kemet was a kingdom, so obviously it's different than the government structure here in America. But outside of it being a monarchy, as far as a kingdom, you know, United States is supposed to be a democracy. But even in democracy, you learn this in civics, but they don't teach civics like that. They used to. But in civics, you learn about a democracy. But United States is not a real democracy, because when you vote for the president of the United States, your vote doesn't elect the president. Your vote elects the electorates, the electoral folks of your state that you're domiciled in. And then those electorates, they go to the electoral college, which is not a real college, of course. I mean, a conventional college, but they cast their vote for president, and they do not have to vote according to what the people say. Now, pause for that little silence so it can sink into people's heads, because you study the electoral college now, and you'll realize
Not only that, every state don't have the same amount of electoral
Exactly.
votes.
Exactly.
So like Texas,
Mhm.
they may have like 8, and like Illinois, where I'm at, I think we got 2.
Okay.
It's weird. It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's really on it. That's why they'll tell you it's only a few key ones. They call them swing states.
So now check this out. So I'm just saying that to back up what I'm saying, that the United States, although we call it a democracy, there's some nuances in there that people really got to be aware of, and there's strategies involved with that, because if we really look at it, if we don't directly elect a president and it's all about the electoral college, then every state, there's pros and cons of the existence of the electoral college. We can't trash it, and we can't, and we got to look at it the way it is too. We got to kind of look at it with a little raised eyebrow at the same time, because think about this, and I bring this up because I'm going back to Kemet, right? Whenever something first starts out, it's always a dictatorship. It's always a dictatorship. Think about it. Even every single culture on the planet, they have a creation story. They have some kind of cosmogony, or creation story, right? It always emanates from a dictator that then has helpers or some kind of assistance from something else. And it's out of that concept, that real concept, where people start to with this monotheism into pantheism type of thing. But I don't want to get too deep, because we're gonna have this conversation before. But what I'm trying to get to is that even in Kemet, the formation of Kemet is our first Africa's first confederacy, like the United States. The United States has 50 states. Kemet has 42 states, if I want to make the comparison. But they call it Sapat, or the Greeks call them nomes, the 42 nomes. Now, those 42 separate communities unified into this one entity called Tawi, or Kemet. And then there was a governmental structure and hierarchy and so on and so forth. Now, the thing is that the Nile is what? How big is the Nile? It's like what, 4,000 miles roughly, estimate? I don't hate to be wrong. Let me see something real quick. Let me see if I can look it up real quick. Length of the Nile.
Yeah, that's your genre right there.
All right, there we go. So but that's the whole Nile. The whole Nile is about 4,100 miles long. Okay, but that's including the part of it that's in Sudan. But now if we exclude it, so it's going to be shorter than 4,000 miles. But let's just round it to, let's say, 3,700 miles. Okay, think about this. In ancient times, how in the world was it possible to unify such a large geographical territory of a variety of communities under one umbrella? Not only to unite them, but to maintain that unity with a few disruptions for over 3,000 years. That right there, to study that and to learn from that, that is what we can use and extract to use for our unity today. And so that's a part of the future discussion that I plan to have with some other folks and everything, to kind of tease that out. But I say that to say that what you said about government and Kemet and stuff, yeah, I'm aware of it. I'm aware of it. Matter of fact, the whole unification, the Simatawi, and how that was done, and the whole Namir's palette, and how Namir or Mini or Menez, people attribute to the first unification, so on and so forth. So we're gonna build on that.
Yes, sir. I think that'll help, because some people need to hear it probably from that perspective. You know, so, yeah, that'd be real good, bro. Yes.
Right. and in fact, Kemet, the colors of Kemet polity was red, white, and blue. That's, people don't understand that. That's a coincidence. You got the Deshret, the red crown. You got Deshret, the red crown. You got Hedjet, the white crown, and then you have the blue crown, the war crown. So you have red, white, and blue, along with the red and black dichotomy going on. So it's a lot. It's a lot to discuss. So, but that's another that's a whole nother topic. But so anyway, I appreciate everybody tuned in, and I don't see any last comments and everything. I'm always looking for an excuse to keep talking, but let's wrap this up. So
all right, let me just say in closing, when we're going to say the same thing. I just want to lead on what Unbiased said, too. You know what I mean? Let's try to boost the channel up, because it's just I don't want us to be arguing. It's very stressful. I know I like a good conversation like this. It's been very enjoyable. Every time we've done it so far, even when there's been disagreements, it's been peaceful, and we need more pockets of space like that. You know what I mean? But with y'all, we can get on the schedule, start doing a little pop-up shop like Kanye West. We can narrow this thing down. You know what I'm saying? We can build a nice little platform. You feel me?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. So it looks like the evening when everybody's already settled in, got the children finished their homework and fed and all that stuff. So it looks like the late night is the best.
Yeah, late night with Wujawu. You know what I'm saying? Let's get it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna keep this going. So yeah, again, I appreciate it. Appreciate everybody tuned in. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and click the thumbs up. See, I don't say like, but click the thumbs up, because even if you don't like what I'm saying, click the thumbs up, because the thumbs up, for some reason, I mean, I know that it's deals with the algorithm with Google and YouTube for exposure and everything. And then share the video. Like, somebody may learn something from what we said. Okay, so share this video, and I'm gonna try to keep them compact. I want to keep them under 2 hours for sure, under 2 hours. I don't even know how long we've been going on. That we over 2 hours, but I'm trying to keep them within 2 hours, and even timestamp them so people can get to something that they're looking for. But all right, so I'm gonna say peace to everybody, and I really appreciate it. Appreciate y'all coming on the panel. Y'all weren't scared, so listen, y'all that's on the chat, man, stop being scared. Come and join these panels and let your voice be heard. We're family, so I appreciate the sister coming in. Among the brothers, it's we need more sisters to speak out. Stop being scared, sisters. All right.
Yeah, I want to learn. And we got to do better.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I appreciate it, and I'm gonna close out. I appreciate everybody tuned in. I'm gonna say peace. As we say in the language of ancient Egypt, which is Ronnie Kemet, we say Shem Hotep. So I'm gonna say Shem Hotep to everyone.
Shem Hotep.
Shem Hotep.